Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. Show.
You're being such a good girl, Bowie, aren't you? You're being such a good girl. Are you ready for this lovely trick? Are you wearing your car dog, Anne? Are you wearing your car dog, Anne? Are you? Oh, you are the best doggy. Mwah! All right, let's take it off you. Just to make sure that everyone understands that Betty doesn't always wear a car dog, Anne. So this was the bit I had last week. In case any of you weren't watching last week, I upcycled the cardigan and then I was left with this bit and I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. Right, let's get you off here, Bowie. Go on, down go. You know, Betty suggested that I make her a cardigan. So there we go. I didn't actually have to make it. Just put it on her and roll the sleeves up. Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome. So I've got a new chair today. Sorry, it's a bit weird. It's a bit bigger than my old chair. It feels like there's lots of space on it. I hope everyone's well. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I hope everyone had a pleasant New Year. How was your New Year, Christopher? Caught him unaware.
Banging, Gillian. Banging.
Banging.
It was banging.
I say, okay. Well, we didn't have any fireworks.
You're right, we didn't.
Quite a lot of zooming.
There was a lot of zooming.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you're all well. So last week, for those of you that weren't tuning in, we took a cardigan or a jumper and turned it into a cushion. Actually, the cushion I made last week, let me show you that one first. So many cushions here. I'm overwhelmed by cushions. So this was the cushion that I made last week, which I then decorated with needle felting. Didn't really have time to show you all that last week, so I'm going to go more into that today, this morning. And then since then, I've done another one. This one with, what are they called? Pom-poms. Oh God. This one with pom-poms. So there's the back. I'm going to take the actual cushion out in a second and just work some more on this one. But last week I was just saying, you know, it works brilliantly with a cardigan because you cut out the shape, you sew up the ends with some trimming if you want to, and then obviously you've got the opening where you can button it and unbutton it and take your pillow in and out. So that's perfect. If you wanted to add needle felting to something that wasn't a cardigan, you'd probably have to do that first before you made it into a cushion because of the nature of the beast, unless you had an envelope opening at the back. But the cardigan's absolutely brilliant. And then obviously we cut the sleeves off of the cardigans last week to make some fingerless mitts. Oh, here's one I prepared earlier. So I've just been working on a little design on that. So I'm going to show you that in a minute as well. So today, primarily going to focus on needle felting. Also talk a little bit about stitching as well. Needle felting is a brilliant way to add new designs, not only to new things that you're making, but also upcycling, recycling onto old woolens. Okay, so that's what we're doing. I haven't really done anything to these jumpers and cardigans other than I've washed them. They might have shrunk a little bit, but last week I was saying if you wanted to, you could get a cardigan or a jumper from, I don't know, from a charity shop or eBay or something. If it's a large percentage of wool and it says hand wash only, you can shrink it down and felt it to make it just a bit more kind of chunky, I suppose. But a lot of you were saying to me after last week that you've accidentally shrunk jumpers in the washing machine. We've all done that. And you never quite know what to do with them afterwards. So this is a brilliant solution. So I'm just going to take the cushion pad out of this one to start with. And I'm just going to talk about this one. If you missed last week and you want to figure out how to actually do the first part and turn the cardigan into the cushion and the fingerless mitts, then find that one on YouTube. from last Tuesday, was it? Was it Tuesday? I've lost track of time, actually. I don't actually know what day it is today.
It was before now.
It was before now.
Definitely before now, and
It's all
not
kind
yet
of-
happening
Every day
tomorrow.
feels like Sunday, doesn't it, when it's this time of year? Anyway, everyone's back to work tomorrow, or some people are back to work tomorrow. I mean, who knows what's going on? But the world should sort of go back to slightly more normal situation tomorrow. Okay, so this is the situation here with the orange poms, top and bottom, that I trapped in. I actually ended up sewing a seam down the sides of this one as well, because it really went in at the bottom where the rib is here, which was the bottom of the cardigan. And it ended up very kind of, what's that shape called, where the tops, is it a parallelogram?
Sounds good to me. No,
yeah, anyway,
parallelogram.
no, that's not a
different.
parallelogram.
That's different.
The one where, anyway, so it was wider at the top than it was at the bottom. This is alive. People can type in and give you the answer to that.
A dodeca ding dong.
A dodecahedron.
No,
is
a
it?
dodeca ding dong.
Oh, right, okay. So, yeah, anyway, it wasn't square. So I ended up sewing down the sides of this one as well to make it a bit squarer. Anyway, I'm quite pleased with this one. I like the colour of it. And I quite like the fact that it's got a rib at one end and not at the other. Well, that's just me, you know, I like things a bit cookie. Why are you laughing? Are you laughing
No
at
reason.
me or at somebody's comment?
Ribbed, that's all. I'm
Pardon?
just laughing at ribbed.
Ribbed? Oh, okay,
Yes.
that's very odd. Okay, all right, so when you are needle felting, what do you need? I know some of you will know this already, but in case you don't, what you need is some wool tops, okay? That's this stuff, all right? Basically, this is unspun wool. So it comes off the sheep, it's washed, it's brushed, all the rest of it. They get all the bits out of it. It's wound into a continuous length, and then it's dyed into all these magnificent colours, of which we have over 70. So lots of colours to choose from. Great inspiration, great colour palette. If you haven't got any, I suggest you get like our rainbow bag, which looks a bit like that. Or if you get our basic felt making starter kit, which is this one behind me. Ooh, pointing backwards the other way, that way. That one behind me there, the basic felt making, needle felting starter kit, that has a few colours in it as well, and some needles. Then you're going to need some foam. Okay, so that's basic, just high density foam that we sell in our needle felting kit, and we do sell it separately as well. And then you're also going to need some felting needles. Felting needles very different to a normal needle. A felting needle is nothing like a sewing needle. It doesn't have an eye. It just has a very, very sharp barbed end to it. The ones that I use all the time are the 38 gauge star profile felting needles, and they have, if you run your fingernail down the side, they have little sort of nicks in them that as you stab in and out of the wool, it entangle it together and felt it together, and that's what causes it to needle felt and become felted, if you like. So there's two sorts of felting. One is wet felting with soap and water, needle felting dry with the barbed needles. So the other thing I'm going to be using today, or showing you a bit, is the multi-needle tool. That also comes with our, I think, our basic needle felting kit has this inside. So this is 4 needles in a wooden holder, so you can stab 4 at once. It just speeds things up, that's all. And that's pretty much it. We also sell these little Pacho wool kits, and these come with 2 colours, a tiny little bit of foam, and a couple of needles. So these are perfect for adding little designs onto your woolens. And that's actually the one that I've got stuffed in the mitt here, the little piece of foam, which I'm just adding the rows onto. So how do you go about this? Well, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this larger piece of foam inside this cushion. Actually, do you want to go to the overhead camera for me, please, Christopher? Thank you.
Yes,
so obviously
my
I've got
lady.
my cardigan open at the back. There we go. And so I'm just going to get the foam aligned to where I want it to be, roughly. I was going to add a pineapple, sort of about here, I think. Oh, my cherries are upside down. Hang on, let's turn it round. There we go. So I was going to add a pineapple sort of here, live, a pineapple, never having done one before. So I've got a various selection of colours of wool here, wool tops, okay. The thing about the wool tops is when you're needle felting is you really don't need very much. I'm going to talk to you first about doing these little tiny little designs like this, and then I'm going to talk about how I did this sort of slightly more painterly, larger design sort of more of a pictorial type thing. I'll talk to you about that in a second. And then I'll talk to you about this little rose here. So just these little kooky little motifs, just going to dot those all over the front of this cushion. Thought it was quite a fun idea. So I think we've got a little rose, a daisy, an orange, cherries, just in case you couldn't figure out what they were. The first thing I'm going to start with is some of this colour, I think, for my pineapple. Now, when you're doing something really itty-bitty small, you hardly need any, okay? So I'm just going to pull off the tiniest amount, like this, okay? Can you make sure you're watching out for questions, please, Christopher? Because I can see you're fiddling with your lights.
I've got to have a fiddle with my lights.
Focus.
Just leave me alone. Leave me alone.
So can you see how much I'm using there? Let me put it over something darker so that you can see like this, okay? Hardly any. And what's going to happen is as I stab this into the wool, let's put it just about there, you'll see that it sort of disappears down into it as I stab. Now, when you're using these felting needles, do you want to come back to me for a sec, Chris, please? It's really important that you don't stab too violently and that you don't stab anywhere near your fingers, okay? They're the most two important things. This needle will break. It has a sort of a point at which it tends to break where it goes much narrower. And if you sort of stab it at an angle, or you stab it too violently or too quickly, it will snap. Now, they're not expensive, they're 40 pence each, but I'm just saying this so that there's no need to break them. If you're careful with them, they don't break, okay? But do keep them away from your fingers. They do really hurt, obviously, if you stab yourself with them. So just when you do stab, if you go back to the overhead, please, Chris. When you do stab, keep them quite perpendicular. Don't do it too much at an angle. They really shouldn't break doing this kind of thing. They tend to break more when you are making something 3D. Like if I just hoik something 3D from behind me, like this kind of thing. So we make the robin. So when you're stabbing into something that's like really firm and dense and sculptural, that's when you'd be more likely to break the needle. But you probably won't be breaking it like this. So you really need to make sure that you're getting these barbs down into the foam. And then every now and again, you do just need to hoik this off the foam and just move it slightly so that it doesn't permanently attach to the foam, okay? Then I just thought I'd highlight this. So I've got two different yellows here. I've got the gold yellow and the bright yellow. So I might just get some of the bright yellow now and just put that just to one side of it, just to give it a little highlight. So I don't know if you can see, but I've sort of done that with the rose here. I've used two different pinks. I've done it with the little orange. I've got a darker sort of gingery colour there and then the bright orange here. I've done some little highlights on the cherries. It just adds a little bit of depth to whatever it is you're making, and it just makes it look slightly more interesting in my humble opinion. Then I'm just going to add a little bit more. So you will have to keep adding up to a point just because it disappears down underneath and it comes through. I'm going to show you the back of this in a minute so you can see what happens on the other side, but it will kind of disappear and you will have to just keep adding a little bit more. Okay, so the next thing I thought I would do is I'd just take a little tiny bit of brown and just do a little crossy on my pineapple. I don't know if you can see because we're fairly zoomed out with this camera, but hopefully you can. So I'm just going to do a little crisscross going that way. And then you've got a question.
I've got a question.
Oh, go on, yeah. While I'm doing this, that's like
2forjoy.luck. That's the name.
Yes.
On Instagram.
Yeah. Oh, can you see okay on Instagram? Sorry.
Yeah, just about.
Just about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you use fine or coarse?
Needles, I'm guessing you mean, Joy?
Needles, yes. Needles, that is. She says that afterwards.
Yes. So these are 38 gauge star profile needles, okay? They are basically, if you looked at this head on under a microscope, it would be star shaped in profile, and it's a 38 gauge. And that's my kind of general all-rounder that I tend to use for most things. Now, we do also sell one that's a 36 gauge triangular, which I think I've got one of here, yeah. So that's a 36 gauge triangular. Now, if I don't know if it'll catch the light as I twiddle it. Yeah, look, it does. Can you see it's got 3 very clear sides to it? I don't know, it depends how good your eyesight is. But that's it's much coarser, and it will make bigger holes in things, and it's more for sculptural work. So I tend not to use that when I'm doing this kind of thing. Okay, I'm just very desperate to just add in my little crissy crossies on my pineapple, just to show you how detailed you can be with this. And then if you don't like something, it's or you feel like you've gone wrong and it wasn't what you'd planned, it's actually really, really easy to pull it out again as well, which I won't do right now, but I will show you that in a minute.
By the way, it's a trapezoid.
Oh,
Everybody's
I knew somebody would know that.
Well,
You're all just
loads of people
so
say
mathematical.
You fools. What's the matter with you? It's a trapezoid. Don't you know?
Sorry, what? A trapezoid.
I don't know now. I'll have to go back and have a look.
Maths was never my strong point. Although I can be quite good with like simple sort of number crunching type maths, but anything to do with trigonometry or all that kind of thing. And I'm quite good with like, finding out the area of something. All the things you need in your
Hold
on,
they're saying it's a trapezium.
Ah, trapezium. Yeah, that sounds more like it.
Does it?
I was just going to say all the things that I need in my everyday to-day life I'm quite good at with maths. I think I tend to struggle with things that I generally think, why would I need to know that? Anyway, right, look, that's looking splendid, little pineapple. And then obviously your pineapple will have some green leaves at the top. I just want to, I suppose the point of me showing you this is how little wool I'm using. I'm using tiny, tiny bits of fluff, okay? So hardly any wool is required. It's terribly cost effective doing this kind of thing. As you can imagine, you don't really need very much of it. So once you've got your little selection, your palette of wool tops, you really don't need to, you don't end up using too much of them is the kind of the point. I'm just going to do a little 3-pointed leafiness at the top of my pineapple. Oh look, it's just looking very pineapple-y now. It's looking very tropical. So I'm going to continue with this cushion cover and like completely, well not completely cover it, but do a smattering of all of these. So there we go, little pineapple. If anyone wants me to show them anything in particular and how I would go about it, I'm more than happy to, as long as it's not, a really complicated, I don't know. Animals are not my strong point. Don't ask me animals. Like little kooky little emblems and motifs I'm good at. So anything like that. If you wanted me to show you how to do a heart
Can
or a
people
flower,
actually see
I
what
don't
Gillian's
know. Anyway,
doing,
I'm going to move on to
quite
something
small.
larger.
Do something bigger, Gillian.
Yes, I'm going to do something bigger. Right, I just wanted to show you though how you can do little tiny things and how cute that is when you look at it. Overall, oh, it's me now. When you look at it overall, it's quite sweet. Okay, I'm going to show you then how I went about doing this larger vase of flowers, okay, here, because I go about this in a very different way. So rather than me actually going over that now, I'm going to talk about it more in a minute, actually, the actual one that I actually did. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the old bit of the other cushion I was making, and I'm just going to use the back of it here, again with the foam in it, just to kind of show you how I lay out more of a kind of painterly design and how to go about that. So what I tend to do with this is try and get some point of reference. I mean, fine, make it up out of your head if you want to, but it's always quite useful, even if you're not doing it per se, if you're not copying something exactly, it's quite a nice idea to get some ideas of colours and just some emblems, some motifs, or even, if there's a painter that you like and paintings that you like. Say you are doing a vase of flowers. I think I looked in a book and got some and thought, I want to do a vase and I want to do some flowers. I mean, that's very me, that's my kind of thing. But I wasn't set, and at first I thought I'd do roses. And then I looked at a painting and it just happened to have a vase of daffodils in the back by an artist whose book I've got. And I was like, oh, that's nice. But of course hers were in a see-through glass vase. And I was like, oh no, I don't want that. So then I think, oh, I'm gonna get the vase from somewhere else. So just try and find some inspiration. And often that can be on Pinterest. If you haven't got books of your favorite artists, and that's not really your thing, have a look online and there's loads of inspiration, as you can imagine. So I'm just going to show you how I would sort of roughly go about laying this out, because it's far more painterly. And obviously I was working on pink here. Actually, I could do it on the pink. Why don't I do it on the pink and try and replicate what I did there? Let me do it on the back of Betty's cardigan, because I'm not convinced she's going to be wearing that a great deal. So let's go with the pink. So I just want to show you then the sort of palette that I get together before I start. So I never think, oh, I'm just going to make a blue jug. I would always think I'm going to get a few different colours. And in this case, I had I think it's called Ice Queen, and the pepperminty colour, I can never remember what we call the colours, sorry, on our website, I'm sure you'll find them, and then white. So those were the three colours that I focused on for the actual jug. And then I thought I'm going to put some polka dots on it, and instead of just doing one colour for the polka dots, I've got, you know, a couple of reds and also our sort of fuchsia pink. And maybe, oh, I think I highlighted those with some threads, okay? And then with the daffodils, oh my goodness, so lots of different green stems. So you don't just want, you know, one green. You want it to look like the light's coming from the front maybe and showing the brighter greens at the front and the darker greens at the back. So if you just go to the overhead for me, Chris, let me just talk through this. So here you can see the jug where I've used those three colours I was talking about with the blues, but I just wanted to talk about the daffodils here. So I've used our forest green, our Christmas racing green, I've used our emerald green, citrus green, and then with the yellows I've used our gold, bright yellow, custard baby yellow, and then I've used orange, and I've used the sort of burnt orange colour in the middle of them as well. So quite a lot of different colours involved there. But I just want to show you now how I'd go about laying that out. So what I'll do is I'll do a much smaller version of it. But I start off by pulling off much longer, larger pieces of wool tops. I want to show you how I do that. So I hold it in the hand I don't write with, then the hand I do write with, I just pull off the very ends, okay? And I start to just lay them out into a shape. Let me just get this flat here. And obviously I'm going to make this quite a lot smaller. So let's make it into more of a little teacup. Let's do a little teacup. So again, if you're pulling it off and it's too big, you can actually pull it in half, okay? And then just lay out a very rough shape. And I will just do a little handle as well for the teacup, like I did on the jug, just to get an idea. Now, of course, none of this is fixed down at the moment, so you can change what you're doing. You can add highlights and lowlights to it. So maybe I'll think, okay, which side shall I decide that the light is coming from, or is the light coming from the front? Do I just want some lighter bits on the front? Maybe I'll build up some lighter bits over here, and then keep the darker bits over the other side over here, and so on, okay? So with the lighter bits, I was using the paler sort of pepperminty greeny colour, which is this one, okay? So if I put some lighter bits here on this side, but then if I really want to highlight, I just take some of the white and add that on. I don't know if you can see how this is working. Hopefully you can. And then I've got a few stray sort of hairs there, but I can just tuck those underneath, get the general idea, make a general plan with those colours. And actually, I haven't got my full set of colours in front of me here, but I'd probably just use a bit of a darker blue, a bit like I did here at the very edge. I use a much darker turquoise colour here and under the handle here. So really important to have a good palette of colours before you start, just like you would with any kind of art project. If you were painting or if you were embroidering, you want to make sure that you've, you know, got the inspiration, got the tools with which you need to work to make it happen, make it all happen. Then with the polka dots, say for example, I'm just going to do a quick polka dot on here. Hardly any wool required for the polka dot. You really don't need very much, okay? But I just want to show you, if I pop those on there, how that just makes that jump out like that. And it's a good contrasty colour against the background colour. But what I want to show you as well is how I can then add a bit of this darker red, just a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit just into the middle of it. And it will just give it so much more depth and make it sort of look more interesting. And so on, okay? And then I'm just going to start to lay out some stems. So with the stems, what you want to think about is doing it from the background forward. So start at what would be the back of your cup of flowers, your jug of flowers, and start to just lay out some stems willy-nilly. That's a technical expression. Any more questions while I'm doing this, Chris?
Yes.
Oh.
School Biscuit.
School Biscuit. Actually, that name rings a bell.
School Biscuit
Yes,
on
yes,
Instagram
yes, yes.
says, once something has been embellished with
Yes,
felt,
yes.
is it washable?
Well, not really, but what I am going to talk to you about that in a minute, actually, and actually wet felting these designs once you've needle felted them to kind of really embed them into the wool. But like anything that's felted, really, nothing's machine washable for certain. But I would say that if you hand washed with care, that would be absolutely fine. But I think you just need to be really careful about it. So I'm just to go back to this, the darker colours at the back, okay, and then I'm going to think about coming forward and the light maybe bouncing off the colours that are further forward. So these, I'm really into greens, got lots of greens here. Forest green, we've got the British Racing Christmassy green. We've got I've got my the dark olive, the mid olive, the bright olive, the lettuce, the emerald, the grass, and the citrus, and the soft yellow olive as well. Got lots of different colours here, and these are all of the ones that I used when I was doing the daffodils. Actually, the soft yellow olive's really great, use that a lot. So just using a mixture of these and just bringing it forward now, and then as you go forward, maybe moving to the brighter one at the front, okay, maybe just zinging a little bit of the, actually this one worked well, this grass green, I think that is. So just as an example there, okay, then you can start to think about putting your daffodils on top of that, okay. So again, just start with maybe some darker ones at the back, okay. Now, obviously the daffodils are sort of daffodil petally shapes, and you don't want to get bogged down in detail here, unless that's your thing. Maybe you do. Maybe you want to be really, really careful about this and put each petal on separately, in which case I would advise getting some good source material and some pictures of some daffodils and how they look. But that sort of turns into a whole different thing. What I'm trying to get here is like an overall sort of general kind of layout of the thing before you start to needle felt it together, just so you can kind of see what it's going to look like before you really start. And then if you don't like what you've laid out, obviously nothing's attached yet. I mean, another way of doing this would be to start needle felting it as you go and building it up from the back, but I kind of did this firstly to get the layout of it as I wanted first, and then to see that the colours worked in amongst one another. I don't think I brought the right colour for the custardy yellow, or maybe that's a bit of it there actually. The custardy yellow daffodil, yeah, I think that's the, you know, those you can buy, that's spot on, that colour, the ones that you can buy, that the little narcissi, yes. And then I'd probably put a little bit of white over the top, which I won't bore you with all the details, but I'm just going to show you just generally how this works. So I think what I did was I started at this point to then needle felt it together. And I would always just take my single needle to start with, and I would just generally tap it. In fact, let's take those off for a second. I think I did the jug first before I added the polka dots, to be honest. So let's just pop those in first, like so. And just get that sort of, so this really allows you to just get the layout right. Just got a little bit of cotton there, and get it kind of sorted in terms of where everything's going to be, and that you've got it laid out correctly in the space that you've got available. And obviously with the cushion that was a lot bigger, but just so you can see roughly how to start doing it, this is kind of what I did. All right, so then I might think, well, actually we need a little bit more of this colour over here, and it looks a bit pocky.
I'd stop watching
And
for a
so-
minute, doing other things, come back and have a look.
Yeah.
That's amazing, Gillian.
Oh, are you saying that, or
Yeah,
somebody
no,
else?
I'm saying
oh,
it.
gosh, okay.
Because I thought it was going a little bit awry, because I'd
oh,
gone off and
how
started
rude.
doing other things.
Or were you just
and
a
I've
little
come
bit
back and I'm a bit,
disinterested?
I'm rather surprised
Okay.
at how much
I'm just going
that
to take
now
those.
looks
I'm
like
just going to take
what it
those
should
off of
do.
it. Well, thank you very much, my dear. That's very kind of you to say so. Right, so I'm just generally just stabbing these in, just generally getting them attached like so, and then that's when you're going to start adding your daffodils. over the top, okay? And you can see how quickly this comes together. But I'm telling you, really, what makes a big difference here are the depth of the colours and the different tones that you can get and create from using more than one colour together.
I've got a question.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Sam Fitzgerald on Facebook.
Hi, Sam.
She says, morning, sorry, missed the beginning of the video today. You talked about the wool. Content for re-up. So does it need to be 100% wool, or could a mix work? Could I use cashmere or a lamb's wool?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay, come back to me for a sec. So, yes, what I was saying was you can use any woolen to do this onto, okay? So this doesn't need to be proper wool, okay? This is actually an old cashmere cardigan. I know that's really lush. It was a cheap one, but I wore it to death. I think it was from Boden. And then it just, you know, when you just think, okay, your time is up now, cardigan, and you just stop wearing it. Maybe you get a new one and you just stop wearing it. That's me. I just wear things to death. Anyway, this is cashmere. I've done this onto acrylic jumpers and sweaters and cardigans as well, or it can be a mix. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that you missed at the beginning that I was saying is if you actually want to felt it and you want it to shrink and you want it to become thicker and sort of chunkier from the felting, then it needs to be hand wash only, and then it needs to be more than about 70% wool, because then it will properly shrink. But if any of the jumpers you've got, say you can wash them in the machine at 30 degrees or 40 degrees, that means they're superwash. And a lot of jumpers are nowadays. They coat each of the fibres in a special coating to stop it from shrinking. So that's to do with shrinking. But in terms of felting and adding the designs, you can do it onto anything that's woolen. So just don't try and do it onto a sweatshirt or onto a fleece or anything like that. But if it's woolly and it doesn't matter if it's acrylic or wool, then it's fine. So going back to this then, do you want to just go back to the shot over it? That's it, perfect.
Yes, master.
Going back to this, you can see that this is all looking quite sort of wibbly wobbly, okay? But it's laid out the bare bones of it. I think that's what I'm talking about here, is the bare bones. And you know, it doesn't really matter which way you lay the fibres now. So if I wanted to do some going across like that, just to kind of even it up, neaten it up, or add some highlights, add some low lights, this is what I would do, okay? And you can see it's still really quite woolly as well. Now, there's a certain amount of stabbing that you can do before you need to then kind of release the foam from underneath so it doesn't get permanently attached. And I think we're probably about there. So I'm just going to then put my hand underneath and just lift it up off of the foam and put it down in a slightly different position. And now I'm just going to talk to you about this fellow. So this is the 4-needled multi-tool, okay? So this is exactly the same thing. It has exactly the same needles in it. Basically just unscrews, you put the 4 needles in it and then you screw it back up again, and it's the same 38 gauge style. So you could fill it up with the other needle I was talking about as well, the thicker one. All this does is allows you to do it faster. Okay, so if I really wanted to get this done quickly, I would use this tool, even if it's just to sort of move me on to the next bit of it and the next layer of it. So I sort of feel like I need to do some work on the handle, and I'd add a little bit more shading onto there, and I feel like I need to do some more work onto the daffodils. So maybe like some of them are looking a little bit sparse and I need some more inside them, as it were. So you might want to think about putting some more wool on. You might want to think about adding a highlight or a low light and then adding a center to them. Again, I'm just using tiny bits of this wool here now, okay? And I'm just putting it between my finger and thumb, putting it into a little sort of circle like that, and then popping it in the middle. Then I'll take the single felting needle and I'll just stab that in to start with. And then you can take your multi-needle tool. Once you feel like it's all in the right place and it's going in the right direction, take your multi-needle tool and it will happen a lot faster like that, okay? And again, keep moving it off from the foam. All right, so I'm not going to go any further with that. I just want to show you that's how to do something painterly. So look at the space that you've got, get your fibres laid out, a rough plan of action, but the most important thing is to have a really great palette of colours, and then you can really add some depth and interest into what you're doing, and it doesn't have to remain flat and uninteresting. Now, once you feel like you've, that made me jump then. I was kind of looking at what I was doing on the screen and suddenly I saw myself. Once you feel like you've got to a point where you think it's done, okay, and you've stabbed it as much as you can into the foam, sometimes it's worth just spending a bit of time then wet felting this as well. Now, what I mean by wet felting is putting some netting over the top of it and then adding soap and water. So obviously you take the cushion pad out. It is all going to get wet and soapy, but doing that will make these fibres really cling on to the wool more, okay? And if it's a cushion that's going to get brushed against a lot, or indeed fingerless mitts that you're going to wear a lot, it's worth thinking about doing this because it will add a kind of, not a layer of protection to it, but it will make it slightly more hardy, okay, and slightly more hard wearing, which I think is important if something's going to get a lot of everyday use. So what you would do is you would just rub it for about 10 minutes with soap and water with the net over the top, so you're not sort of disturbing any of it. And then if you've got a bamboo mat, like this one here on the table, then you can use that to roll it a little bit as well. You don't want to so much shrink it a lot, this wool, okay, or indeed any of the wool. You just want to get it to bond together a little bit more. And then obviously you would rinse it out, probably lukewarm water so it doesn't shock it and it doesn't shrink it drastically. Make sure it's soap free, and then block it to dry, just leave it flat to dry somewhere, and you'll find that that will just change the texture of it a little bit from the needle felted texture to a wet felted texture, which will be a little bit more hard wearing. All right, any questions about that before I move on?
Yes.
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 Yes. Molly and May asks, would you put some backing material on the back of the work?
No, I never do. I was going to show you the other side actually. Hang on, let me get my blue one. You don't really need to, as long as it's well felted. It's not going to like come out. I don't know if any of you watched any of my punch needle tutorials, which is something completely different to needle felting. But with that, the little punches, the little loops that come out with the yarn that you're punching through do need holding at the back, and they actually, you have to use a glue. With this, it's very different because it's much finer. What comes through the back is like, it's quite cute actually. It's like a little fluffy version of what you've done on the front. But it is very much through and in place and takes hold. So there's really nothing to be gained by putting a piece of fabric against it on the back. And if anything, what I was just saying about doing some wet felting, so you could either wet felt it from both sides and just give it, rub it with a little bit of soap and water, that will fix it and that will hold it way more than applying any kind of backing fabric to it, okay? So I can show you the back of this one as well actually, if you like. Anyone interested?
Kerry Curtis.
Hello, Kerry Curtis.
Asks, does wet felting smooth out the pock marks a bit?
Yeah, it will do. It will do, absolutely. So, I mean, this is a bit of a mess actually, but you can see the back of it has come through and it's exactly the same as the front, but just like a sort of more furry version of it. It's quite nice actually. Maybe that's the thing. It's a slightly sort of blurred version of it, but it is very much through and held in place. I feel like this isn't going to come out, but I feel like it could get, you know when jumpers get bobbly and sort of the wool goes a bit meh. I feel like that could happen to it if it got brushed across a lot, and certainly if the dog was on it or something, which obviously it wouldn't be, would you, Betty? Oh, she's curled up literally by my feet on the blanket that was on the chair. Very cute. If the dog was on it, or or it got sort of scratched against something, then it could pull at it a bit and some of the fibres might come out. So that wet felting over the top afterwards, I think, would really help, but don't shrink it too much. If you used a lot of really hot water and rubbed it with soap for too long, this wool tops is far more susceptible to being shrunk than the jumper that you've needle felted onto. So what you might find is then this shrinks and then puckers at the edge if you do it for too long. So it would be a brief wet felting, but indeed you would lose some of the pock marks as well, as Kerry was just saying. So yes. So I would recommend doing that. Now I'm just before, how are we doing for time? Yeah, just before we go, I was just going to show you as well the little rows that I was doing on the Fingerless Mitt. Because I know a lot of people are interested in how to do that as well. So, and then I was going to just quickly talk about stitching as well on things. In fact, let me just do that before I forget. So on this, on the daffodils here, I've done quite a lot of stitching on it as well. If you just go to the overhead for a sec, let's do that first. So you can see that I've done some freehand stitching around the top of the jug, just to add a little bit of decoration to it. And this is just running stitches that I've done in overlapping scallop shapes. And then here I've just done single stitches around the handle on the jug, and I've just made them closer together at the bottom. And then here, one of my favourite embroidery stitches, the French knot. Let me just quickly show you a French knot. The yarn, not the yarn, the thread that I've been using for this stitching are our hand dyed threads that I was talking about last week. I've just got another couple of colours here. There's two ways of buying these. They're dead cheap actually. I think they're, how much are they? They're only a couple of pounds, I think. If you go onto hand-dyed threads on our website, they come in threes in kind of different colour combinations. So this one's called Aquatic, and you get 3. They're pearl number 8 threads, so that's the sort of the size of them. And they're 100% cotton, and they're hand-dyed in South Africa. They're really very, very beautiful. And we do now also, oh, I've just pulled the thread out. We do also now have boxes of these as well, but they come in thread sets. So there's like a green set, there's a blue set, watery set, and then these brightly coloured ones as well, which are rather splendid and gorgeous. So the one I was using, I think, was called Flame, and I've just unthreaded my needle. God damn it. Right, hang on. Oh, there we go. Faster than I thought. All right, so let me very, very quickly show you how to do a French knot. Super easy. And you just get these little knotty bits of gorgeousness on the top of your work. So I also think that it just adds another dimension to it when you add stitching on top of the felting. But obviously you could just do stitching on your upcycled cushions and mitts if you want to. So you bring your thread up. Oh, Gillian, you haven't tied a big enough knot in the end of it, and it just pulled all the way through. So tie a big enough knot in the end. Then bring it up, okay? And it's really simple. You just need to be really careful that you keep your thread taut, okay? But you're just wrapping it around your needle a couple of times, and then you're going back down and keeping the thread taut as you pull it through, and then you end up with a lovely little knot, okay? That's the French knot. And I know that you can't see it very close up, but it just gives you these little kind of dinky little embroidery stitches, which just add another layer, just a certain je ne sais quoi. Right, now let me go on to this Fingerless Mitt here, okay. What I've done here is I've just used a tiny piece of foam, so one of our larger bits cut up, and it's also the same size that comes in our Pacho wool packs, okay. So the little bit of foam has gone into the mitt here, and then I've got the other one, that had all carefully laid out with all the bits of colour that I was going to use that have now gone AWOL and are skewed across the table. Anyway, so all I've done here is I've laid out some red, some darker red, some pale pink, and almost think of it a bit like that cup I was just doing over here, okay. So you've almost got like a cup shape. Obviously it doesn't have a handle, and then you've got the centre of your flower, and you want to differentiate these lights and darks, okay, and that will make it look more rose-like. So if I start again from the beginning using this piece in this one just here, let me kind of show you roughly what I do. So obviously this is the other hand of the mitts that I made last week. First of all, get your foam right in the middle. So look at where your seams are, okay, make sure it's roughly in the middle. Line them up and decide roughly where you're going to do your design, which is sort of roughly about there. Then I'm just going to get some red to start with, some bright red, and then I'm just going to curl it around kind of like that, okay, and I'm going to pop that down first. And you could start to stab this in, just gently stabbing, holding the needle halfway down so it's not too violent, okay. And then you're going to get a darker red, and I'm just going to take some of that, and then I'm just going to add a little low light at the bottom of that there, like so. And again, just bring it round and just stab it into place. So I'm not stabbing this very deeply at the moment. I'm just kind of laying out my colours, a bit like I was with the cup, before I get properly stabbing properly so that it properly adheres together. This is just my rough kind of laying out phase. Then I'm going to get a little bit of the pink that's actually very similar to the pink of the glove as it happens. And I'm just going to lay that here at the top. So that's like a highlight, okay, like so. And then you might also want to think even about adding a tiny bit of yellow into the flower. So if you think that it's got pollen in the centre here, and it would just be poking up from the middle here, just the other side of this, if this is a petal here, okay. And then you might want to think about having some lighter bit, just the light catching the edge of the front there. So I've got some much lighter pink here. Oh, I've just stabbed my finger. Like so. Okay. Try not to get blood everywhere now. Okay. And you can see how it starts to come together. So it starts to look like something that's 3D by adding the highlights and the lowlights. And then with the little leaves, just taking tiny, 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 tiny bits of wool. And I tend to just fold them in half and then twist the end and then start to stab that in at the side as a leaf. Okay, and again, don't just use one colour. So I'd probably choose to use, I don't know, I think I use this very, very bright lime greeny colour. Have we got any more questions, Christopher?
Currently, no.
Currently, no, okay. And if you do get to a point where you think, oh, I've actually got too much wool, you can just snip it off. I think the dog's snoring, if you can hear a weird noise in the background. It's definitely not me making that weird sort of grunting noise. And then I'm just going to do another little bit on the other side as well. So again, tiny bit of wool, twist it over, twist the end, stab it in place. And there you've got some little roses on your gloves. And what I did here at the bottom was I did a blanket stitch. I think I talked about that last week. And then I just did a little cross at the sides. But again, you can do all sorts of decorative stitching on these as well as the needle felting. Let me just actually pull this out. And again, I think it would make a great deal of sense to me anyway to wet felt this a little bit as well, just to keep it in place, because these will probably get a lot of wear and tear and you don't want the design to lift off. Okay, I would recommend doing them simultaneously, because obviously I've done this one separately, it looks slightly different, so probably start again and make it try and look the same so that they're a matching pair. But that, my friends, is how you would go about adding new designs to your upcycled jumpers and fingerless mittens that you've made from your old cardigans and your old jumpers. So I hope you are feeling inspired. If you need to get provisions, we do have quite a few of those. We sell the wool in all different guises, if you like. So we sell it in 100-gram bags, and that's the most cost-effective way of buying it. So you can buy our single colours, over 70 to choose from, but you do get like four-ish meters of it, so it's quite a lot of one colour. So if you just want to be inspired, or you want lots of colours and build that palette up that I was talking about, we sell inspiration packs, various different ones. This one's called Monet Magic, £5.95. So you've got different greens, different mauves, lilacs, purples, and then you've also got some Peacock Angelina, which is the sparkly stuff, which you can actually also needle felt onto your designs if you want to, which I haven't done today because I didn't want to. But in fact, do you know what? I tell a lie. I've put a little bit of sparkly Angelina in the jug of my daffodils. So that's one way of buying it. We do also sell a rainbow bag. Okay, so that's got all of the colours of the rainbow in it, just a bit of each. And you also get all of the colours of the rainbow in the basic needle felting kit as well. And that comes with the wooden holder, the 4 needles and a small piece of foam. Or we do also sell a naked needle felting kit, which is a larger piece of foam, again with the 4 needles and the holder. If you want to just buy lots of little bits of lots of different colours, we do a deal where you can buy all of our 9 25-gram bags in a sort of reduced deal on our website, so have a look for that. And then if you do just want to literally mend a jumper or do a little design on a jumper, you can buy the Pacho wool kit, which again, as I mentioned before, is a little piece of foam, 2 needles and 2 colours, and that comes in loads of different colourways, some of which I have got here. So we do like I did a toadstool live back last year. That sounds weird saying that now. I did another live where I did a toadstool on some fingerless mitts using red and white. So it comes in red and white. If you want one to go with blues, and so on and so forth. Loads to choose from. I've talked to you about the threads as well. By the way, I would recommend using chenille needles with these threads, okay? So you'll need a slightly larger needle than a regular sewing needle. So something that you can get the thread through the eye. A chenille needle is perfect for that. And what else? Oh, and then next Sunday, I thought the time was right for us to be making a wet felted hot water bottle cover. Christopher's looking confused.
Bloody can't wait.
All right, there's no need for that.
What?
Swearing.
What? Oh, sorry, did I swear?
You did.
My apologies.
You can't wait. So this is our Hottie Botty, which is our hot water bottle cover kit, if you want a kit. But you could also do your own thing and go off-piste, and I will show you how to do that. You will need some template plastic, and you'll need to draw a round bigger than your hot water bottle that you're actually going to put in the middle. You need to make it quite a lot bigger, your template, because the felt will shrink, and you still need to be able to fit your hot water bottle in the middle of it. If you buy the kit, this is our complete kit, so you get everything you need in here. So you get the template, you don't get the hot water bottle, sorry, but it's everything you need to make the cover. You get the template, and you also get the mini mat and the netting, and you get all the colours to make this particular one, okay? But you can also buy the bits separately. It's a really fun thing to do, and obviously it's the right time of year to do it because it's absolutely freezing here. Well, we know it's not freezing in Australia. And it's probably not freezing in South Africa, is it? Don't know, where else do we have people watching from? It's probably not even freezing in Cornwall.
It's only just around here.
It's only
it's
around
cold.
that it's cold.
It's just here. Yeah.
Literally just here in Betchworth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
It's been snowing
Yep.
up north. Anyway, I thought it was the right time of year to do a lovely hot water bottle cover. So hopefully you'll join us for that next Sunday at 11. In the meantime, have a lovely week. Stay inside and snuggle up by the fire with a hot chocolate and upcycle some jumpers and make some cushions and some fingerless mitts. And we recommend Catherine the Great. It's called The Great, actually. It's a new series, just started. It's starting tonight on Channel 4, but we've nearly watched the whole thing on Amazon and it's brilliant. Recommend that. Yeah. Anything else to say, Christoph?
No, we're done here.
He wants to go. So bye from us for now. See you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.
It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag. It's Gilliangladrag Fluff-a-torium. It's Gilliangladrag.